How to fill out the Form 1040. Taxes can be a daunting task, but don't let the 1040 form intimidate you. In this guide, we will break down the form and provide step-by-step instructions for the most important fields you will need to fill out. First, let's define what Form 1040 is. Form 1040 is the U.S. Individual Income Tax Return, a federal income tax form used to report income, claim tax deductions or credits to the IRS, and calculate one's tax refund or bill for the year. Now, let's dive into the details of the 1040 form. It begins by asking for personal information, such as your name, address, social security number, tax filing status, and how many tax dependents you have. Next, you will calculate your taxable income by adding up all your income for the year. Taxable income is the amount subject to income taxes. On page 2 of the 1040 form, you will calculate the taxes you owe, also known as your tax liability. You can subtract any tax credits you may be eligible for, as well as taxes that you have already paid via withholding from your paychecks throughout the year. Finally, you will determine your tax bill or refund. This will tell you whether you have already paid any or all of your tax bill and whether you are eligible for a refund if you have overpaid. The Form 1040 can also help you determine whether tax credits or withholding taxes covered your tax bill. Now, let's take a look at the details of an example tax form. This example form is for Dan, who is single. He has checked the single box for his filing status and has filled in his name, social security number, and address information. The form also includes options to contribute to the presidential election campaign and questions about digital assets or virtual currency. The form includes sections for standard deduction and dependents. A tax dependent is a person who qualifies for a dependency exemption on a taxpayer's federal income tax return. Dan has no dependents, so all that information is left blank. Dan has entered his income information. He earned W-2 income from his employer. If you have multiple sources of income, you might have to report it under different forms and schedules, such as the W-2 and 1099. The form includes sections for tax-exempt or taxable interest and capital gains. Dan had taxable interest from his bank, so he entered it. Since he had no capital gains or other sources of income, he calculated his total income and adjusted gross income. Dan chose the standard deduction, which is a fixed dollar amount that reduces his taxable income. You can choose between the standard deduction and itemized deductions, whichever results in a lower taxable income. Dan used his taxable income to find his tax amount by looking it up in the tax table provided in the 1040 instructions. This determined his tax liability. The form includes sections for entering tax credits, which can reduce the amount of tax you owe. Dan had no credits, so he entered his tax amount again. The form has a section for federal income tax withheld, which is the amount taken out of your paychecks by your employer. This amount should match the total on your W-2 forms. Dan found this information on his W-2 and entered it on the form. The form has sections for refund and amount owed. A refund is the money you receive if you've paid more in taxes than you owe, while the amount owed is the difference if you didn't pay enough. Dan was due a refund, so he entered the amount he overpaid. Once all the information is correct, he signed and dated the return and filled out any remaining information before submitting it to the IRS before the deadline. When filling out the 1040, be sure to double-check all your information and claim any applicable deductions or credits. Remember that more complicated tax situations may require tax preparation software or the assistance of a tax professional. Your tax situation is unique, so consult with a tax expert if you're unsure about any part of the form. Thank you for watching, and please like and follow us for more tax and personal finance information.